Kadosh Boker Tov, Moadim L'Simcha, Masechet Sotah Daf, Tetzayin Amud Aleph, 16a1, whereby Ibai Lehu, which is a few lines down. Okay, Ibai Lehu. So we're going to come and ask the question. It's 5 lines down. Ibai Lehu. En sham afar, if there's no afar, ma'u sheiten efer, can you put efer instead of afar? Efer is ashes. Can you put ashes instead of dirt? Aliba de Bet Shammai lo tibei lecha. Obviously, according to Bet Shammai, there's no question. The Amri, because he says, Shalom atzinu efer shekru afar, that we've never found efer, which is called afar. So obviously, according to him, there's no question you cannot bring efer. When is the question? According to Bet Hillel, because they said matzinu efer shekru afar, that we did find, right, a case of efer which is called afar. So therefore, if efer is called afar, I cannot find afar. Put efer, put ashes instead of dirt. My what's halacha? Afar give the afar, even though efer is called afar. Hechal to do with the Rabbi Sotah bekarka mishkan. It's written in the karka mishkan, and obviously you don't have efer in the karka mishkan. Well, or maybe Hai bekarka mishkan. This karka mishkan is for Isi ben Yehuda, uchdi Isi ben Menachem udati, for Isi ben Menachem, that they wanted to come and to teach like the Braita Kodemet, and not that it's coming to exclude efer. So Tashema, what did they say before? They were the ones that came and they said that really behemet it has to be from the karkan. You cannot bring it from the outside. So Tashma, they wanted to bring a proof. Tam Rabbi Yochanan Mishmael, it says Rabbi Yochanan name Mishmael. Bishosha mekomot halacha ukevet hamikra Torah amra. There are 3 places where the halacha uproots the pashut pshat of the Torah. You understood? Meaning you have the Torah, and there are 3 places where the halacha says that even though the simple explanation of the Torah is A, we're going to say that the halacha is B. Right? 3 places. HaTorah amra be'afar. The Torah says that you're supposed to do kisui adam, chayav va'of. When you cover the blood of a chayav va'of, of a wild animal or of a bird, when you do shechita, you're going to do the kisui dam be'afar, with a far. Halacha is b'chol davar. You could even cover it with grass or whatever it is, anything you could cover it with. That means even though the Torah says mefurash be'afar, you could cover it with whatever you want. HaTorah says tar, that at the end of the nizirut, tar lo yavor rosho, you're not allowed to come and use a tar. Halacha Moshe Sinai is b'chol davar, even with scissors. Right, the Nazir cannot come and start cutting off his hair. HaTorah Amra, the Torah says, right, v'katav la'sefer kritut, that you have to write a sefer kritut for a get. Halacha is b'chol davar. Halacha Moshe Sinai, you could use anything for a get. Okay, so therefore these are 3 different places where the halacha uproots the simple explanation of the Torah. Now, if you're going to tell me now efer is bimkom afar, so why didn't we bring this one, Oziel? There's another one. Even though the Torah says that you're going to come and use afara mishkan, right? It's not only a Afara Mishkan, it's also going to be the Efer. Yeah? So Tana, we learned Tana V'Shir. Tana said that really behemet means you left over. You're right. There's going to be a few extra cases where we actually left it over, and you're right. So says my share that share. What did you leave over? If you're only going to say that you left over 1, it doesn't make sense. I'm saying just bring it down. Obviously, it has to be a few of them then. So says the Gemara, Shir Metzorah. He also left over a Metzorah. The Tanya was learned in the Braita. The 7th day, you're going to come and you're going to cut off all of his hair. Halal, right? What does that mean? This is a klal, which is like a general rule, which is including Roshov Zekenovik Benava, right? But one second. When you say et kol searo, it includes all the hair. As you just said, all the hair, kol searo. Then all of a sudden it says et Roshov Zekenovik Benava, his hair, his beard, and his eyelashes. So he says, one second, that's a prat, that's an individual, that's a specific. Then it says, again afterwards, it says, all his hair you're going to cut off. It's a klal again, a general. So you have a generalization, specification, visualization. You're only going to go after the specification, just like the prat is mefurash, just like the specification is going to be explicitly. Wherever there's hair, and it's nida, and it's seen, it has to be anywhere where there's a hair, and it's going to be seen. Which means it's going to come to exclude any hidden hair that's not seen. So Marabi, what are we including? Right? Rabbi se'ara reglaim, the hair, right, of otomakom. Because even though there's going to be hair in the private area, right, and you could see it when it's going to be without clothing, unclothed. What is it coming to exclude? The armpits, and the rest of the body. Why? Because he says there it's not a makom, because basically the bet shechi is not seen. If you have your hands closed, right, like this, your arms closed, you cannot see the armpit hairs. So for that comes to exclude. But your private area, if you're without clothing, you could see it. That's a makom kidusa, or the rest of the body. What does that mean, the rest of the body? Meaning, behemet, if you have your hair on your arms, right, on your legs, because even though it said before legs, it didn't really mean the legs, it meant otomakom. Okay, it meant the private area. Okay? It just said, a hair of the legs, just, for nice, not to say, a hair of the area, okay? So says the Gemara, so you see from here that even though, right, it came to exclude something that was written, so he says, kedlat. Is you're going to do everything, even tiglat al-Chadashni, everything. If you wanted to come and do you have to bring tar on everything. The seventh day, you're going to do it just like the first day. So you see that the Mishnah is talking about the second tiglachat is going to be everything, even though the klal ufrat uklal was only talking about a place where they had a gathering of hair. Okay, so you see from here that again, halachal Moshe Sinai is changing the pashup pshat of the Torah. The pashup pshat of the Torah was we learn a klal ufrat uklal, and therefore it comes to exclude armpit hair or any other hair, right, which is not going to be the private area or the hair, beard, and the gabotenaim, the eyelashes, right, the eyebrows. So he says, so Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak says Rav Nachman Yitzchak ki kachashi v'halacha ukevet, right, mikra ha'ukevet d'Rabbanan. He says no. When do we mention these things? The tiglacha mitzurah is not considered. Why? Because there it's halacha Moshe Sinai, which is only coming and being ukevet on the Rabbanan, not on the Doraita. Here, the halacha Moshe Sinai was coming in ukeret the Doraita, meaning like this. The first three that we mentioned, whether it's going to be by the get, sefer and the get, or by the ta'ar and the mitzurah, right, the nazir, or the afar and the efer, by all those things, there was uprooting something which was doraita. I mean, the pashut pshat in the Torah was A, and then we came and we changed the B. Here it's not doraita. This is, we're learning from learnings of the Gemara, which is klal ufrat uchlal. There it's going to be the concept of the Rabbanan. So there, even though we're uprooting it, which means halachal Moshe Sinai is coming and uprooting it, but it's not uprooting the doraita. Okay, it's only the Rabbanan.
But there is other place where
Rabbi comes and he says, Ki kachashiv halacha ukevet ve'okeret, okevet u'mosefeti. There's another answer similar to what I just said now. When did we mention? We mentioned the halachot, which are okevet, and they oker the mashmaut of the pasuk. Here, it's not okeret, the mashmaut of the pasuk. What really be'emet, it's what it's doing is that it's really mosifa, it's adding. So therefore, since it's adding, you're not really uprooting it, you're just adding other things as well. So therefore, that's another answer that you're allowed to do that. Ravashi comes and he says, right, how do you do that? Hamatznitem ani, who's our Mishnah? Rabbi Ishmaeli. So Ishmael, the darish klale ufrat, that he does a klal ufrat, right? Kidlat mani. So therefore, what does it mean? Like, who's this actually going? So he comes and he says like this, which means when we just said now that the tiglachat shniya, he has to do it like a dlat, like a pumpkin. Who is that? Rabbi Kivahi. That he's doing the ribuy muyote. Remember, there's an inclusion, or we called it something else, an inclusion and limitation is what I think was called, right? And the concept of the klal ufrat. The Tanya we learned in the Braita. It's going to be the seventh day that he's going to cut off all his hair. Riba. It's an inclusion, right? It's a limitation. It's limiting it to specifically these three things. And then again, you're going to come and you're going to cut off all the hair. Chazar v'riba. Again, it's an inclusion. Riba means riba. You have an inclusion, limitation, inclusion. Riba kol. You're including everything. My riba. What are you including? Riba de kule gufe. You're including everything in the body. What are you coming to exclude? He says you're coming to exclude miyet se'ar shebetoch hachotem. You're coming to exclude one thing: the hair in your nose, in your nostrils. That's the only thing that you're actually coming to exclude. But other than that, you're including everything. You understood the difference. When you do ribui miyut to ribui, you go after the ribui. Right, the inclusion, limitation, you're going to, when you do klal ufrat uchlal, which is a generalization, specification, generalization, you're going after the prat, the specification. Okay, that's what you're doing. So there's a big difference between them. So my have Allah. So what bemet is the answer then? So Tashma, we're going to try to bring the proof. The Amar Tetzanim Bet, yeah, 16b. So he says, Amar Buna Barashim Rav says Buna Barashim Rav, En Shamafar, if you do not have a far, Mevi Rakubit Yerekum Kadesh. You're going to come and you're going to bring into the Hechal, right, this Rakubit of Yerek, and then you're going to sanctify it, which means you're going to put it into water, and therefore you could actually use this, right? And this is going to be like also, so obviously you could use Efer as well. But it's not true. He says the Yerek, this vegetable that came from the Afar, is Afar, right? Efer, but Efer was never Afar, meaning ashes never came from the dirt. The vegetables, they came from the dirt and they grew up. So if you're going to come, you're going to take a vegetable. Many times you still have even the dirt on the vegetable. Many times you take, carrots, potato. They have to clean it off with all the dirt. If not, it comes up. It comes with the dirt. Here, Efer was never dirt. So therefore, it's a completely different halacha. Okay? Fine. Next, we said in the Mishnah, notel afar. So you're going to take it until you could see it with alamayim, right? Until you see it with the water. So he says, someone learned in the Braita, there has to be three things that you could see be'en, that you can actually see it and it cannot be absorbed. Afar sotah, the dust, the dirt of the sotah. Efer paraduma, the ashes of paraduma, and the rock of yavama. And the rock of yavama means when the yavama comes and she spits to do chalitza, you have to see it. It cannot be absorbed in the ground. You have to actually see it. Just like the afar of the sotah and the efer para, you have to see it. So to the dam of the tzipor of the metzora, also you have to see it. It cannot be absorbed. My time of the Rishmael, what's the reason in Rishmael that he added dam tzipor of the metzora? It says in the pasuk, "Betaval otam bedam tzipor." You have to do the tevilah in the dam tzipor. The Tanya we learn bedam. Yachol bedam v'lo b'mayim. I would have thought it could be in blood and not in water. Tamolomar b'mayim could also be in water. In mayim yachol b'mayim. I thought it was water and not in blood. Tamolomar bedam. What does that mean? Hakeitzad. Nevi mayim shedam tzipor nikar ben. You can bring water, but the dam tzipor still has to be recognizable in the water. The kama. So how much water do you bring? A revi'it. Meaning, if you're going to bring a revi'it, right? So therefore, it's still going to be seen the blood, right? It still has mar'e adam. But if it's going to be more water, then it's only going to be tseva. It's only going to be color. Meaning, if it's going to be less than a revi'it, right, up to a revi'it of water, the blood is still blood. It might be a little bit diluted, right? It's like more, not less, it's less concentrate, but it's still blood. The second you put more water, so now it's already like a diluted, and now it's already like colored water. It's not blood. That's watered down. You understand? There's a difference. Okay? But according to the rabbis, hahu legufe, right? When it says over there, we don't need the dam to be nikar because you need it for itself. This is what the Torah says. You have to dip it in blood and water. And therefore you see from here that it doesn't have to actually mean that the dam has to be nikar. But according to the Rabbi Shmuel, what doesn't the Torah just says? Taval bahem. Taval bahem is in the water and the blood. Plural. Taval bahem. What does it say? Taval badam. So he says, right? Bedam uvamayim lama. What does it say? First you have to dip it in blood and water. So she has shenikar. But according to the rabbis, if it was written by him, Havamina would have thought, each one has to be separate. Meaning you have to dip in the blood and then you have to dip separately in the water. They're not mixed together. So you have to mix them together. Rabbi Shmuel, according to Rabbi Shmuel, how do you know you have to mix them together, the blood and the water? It's written in another pasuk. So the beginning it said you have to slaughter the blood, right? And then it's going to be mixing the blood and the water. So for obviously the second pasuk is teaching you that the blood has to be nikar in the water. Rabbanan, according to the rabbis, I would have thought to say that you're not going to do the shechita, right? In order that the blood is going to go into the keli. But rather you have to do the shechita on the tzipor right next to the keli where the water is, right? And then you're going to grab the bridin with your fingers so the blood doesn't come out. And then you're going to accept the blood in another utensil. Kamash Malan comes to teach, that the blood and the water need to be mixed up together. Okay? Ask Rabbi Yirmiyah from Rabbi Zirah. Gedolah umadchet hamayim, which means revit hamayim is not going to be nikar because of the blood. Or the revit is going to be a small amount, right? And the blood is going to be, you could see more water than the blood. What's halacha? Which means at the end of the day, what happens if it's a very big bird? If it's a big bird, obviously there's much more blood than water. And if it's a small bird, so there's more water than blood. So what happens? What's halacha in such a case? But you told me revit. Now there's big birds and there's small birds. So what do you do? So Elmaleh, he comes and he says, didn't I tell you, don't come and start looking after the shurim with tziporim. We're talking about a regular tzipor dror. And there's nothing which is bigger that's going to push off the water, and there's nothing which is smaller which the water is going to push it off. Which means this is the measure which is for all the birds. Because we're talking about a tzipor dror. So since we're talking about a certain specific type of a bird, so therefore we know that there's no such a bigger one, right? That is more than this, okay, and then smaller than this, okay. That's a special type of a bird, right? That's chofshit ladur b'chol makom. That it's like it's a free bird. It's not a bird which is trapped or that's growing in an enclosed area. Okay, we learned the Braita. Okay, higdim afar lemayim pasul. What happens if you put the afar before the water and the kli? It's going to be pasul. Rabbi Shimon says it's going to be kosher. My time Shimon was reasoning with Shimon. The says pasul lakechula tameh ma'afar serifat chatat. You're going to take from the tameh ma'afar serifat chatat. Tanya, we learned in the Braita. Amar Bishmon says Bishmon v'chiafarhu. Says what? When you're going to take from the serifat chatat, the burning of the chatat, that's afar. It's eferhu. It's ashes. It's not afar. So Shina Ketub Mashmo, it changed from afar to instead of Efer, Ladurim to make a Gzira Shava. No, Neymar can it's written by Paraduma Afar, and it's written by the Sotah Afar. Just like by the Sotah, Afar Gabimaim, it's Afar on top of the water. Afkan, so too to do with the Afar of the Paraduma, it should be Efer on top of water. Umakan, just like over here by the Paraduma, Igdim Afar Lamaim Kasher. If you did it with the Avad, you put the Efer before the water, it's going to be kosher with the Avad. So too by the Sotah, if you put the Afar before the water, it's going to be kosher with the Avad. So ask the Gemara, how do we know by Paraduma that if with the Avad you put the Afar, right, which is the Efer, remember, ashes, right, before the water, that it's going to be kosher? So he comes and he says, Trek Ktiva, but it's written two different psukim. Ktiv, it's written, Lakula Latameh Me'afar, V'natana Lav Ma'im Chayim. Alma Efer Bereshas. You see the Efer comes first. Uchtiv, and it's written at the end of the pasuk, Ma'im Chayim El Keli. The first is Ma'im Chayim, it directly goes into the Keli, which means that Alma Ma'im Bereshas, the first comes the water that goes directly into the Keli, into the utensil, and then you put the Efer. Hakei said, how does it work? Whichever one you put, you're going to be okay. Because basically, since you have a contradiction in the pasuk itself, what comes first? Whether it's first the Efer and then the water, or first the water and then the Efer, whichever one you do, you're going to be okay with the Avad. That's what we're saying. But Rabbanan, according to the rabbis, Ma'im Chayim El Keli is Davka. When it says Ma'im Chayim El Keli, that's Davka. You first have to put the water before anything else. It has to be directly in the Keli. But then when it says Alav and Natan Alav Ma'im, La Revan, you have to mix it together. That's what it means, Alav. Not that it first has to be the Efer and then you're putting the water on it, but it has to be together. You have to mix it together. The Ema Alav Davka. So he says, why don't I say the opposite? Maybe Alav is Davka, that you first put the Efer and then the water. Vel Keli is Lav Davka. Shetechi Yutam Bekeli. You're putting everything inside of a Keli. So answers Gemara, Mamatzin B'chol Makom, Machshir Lemala. It's just like by any usual case, the Machshir is always on the top. Right? For example, the Sotah, the Afar is a Machshir Itamayim. Right? So too, the Dam Tzipor is a Machshir. So just like the Machshir, the one which is making them susceptible or making them fitting, is always on the top. So to here, by the Efer, it should be on the top. Machshir Lemala. Okay, and that's the way that it's going to be. We'll continue on Friday.